points. We have the police, we have DPP, which is Department of Public Prosecution. You have to get a report from that department to prosecute a crime, to prosecute or not to prosecute. Oftentimes, a number of things happen there. A case that is supposed to be prosecuted, the DPP report can come out to say this person shouldn't be prosecuted. I'm telling you what I know by my experience. Anybody who wants to challenge me can come and challenge me physically. I have evidence. I'm telling you that the challenge we have is not the absence of law. We have robust legal framework to tackle this, but the enforcement is nothing to write home about.
Let me come to Mrs. Modukwe Adeyinka, veteran educator, founder iAfrica, a cloud foundation, who just stepped into Lagos can be worrisome with traffic. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You just heard Barrister making a comment on how there are laws guiding all of this, but still yet this menace has not been tackled. Do you agree with? I know you've had experiences with all of these issues. You've had experiences with kids coming to you as a mother, as a grandmother, to say, "Oh man, this is that," and then when you try to take these issues further, you get barriers from maybe the police, maybe the justice system, or corruption is probably hindering the issues from going further. Your comment?
Well, I think for me, what we have is this societal barrier to prosecution of cases like this.
Okay.
I think that is where we actually need to start getting it right. A child is abused, the family thinks it's shame, and they don't want to go out there and prosecute. So we don't have enough people coming out to hold the system accountable, because whenever a child, is abused, everybody feels that we have to protect the child, the future of the child. We don't want this stigma to go with the child into their adulthood. But they forget that the child is physically abused, and it leads to a mental abuse that will go with the child into the future. So when Barrister talks about the police not being able to hold, prosecute, I think it stems from that cultural thing where everybody feels, shh, don't talk about it. Let's not talk about it, manage it. And in some cases, they try to get the child some kind of compensation. But how do you compensate for a child who has been abused and molested? How do you compensate for what she's going through? We don't even have a system where they will put her or him through some kind of counseling that will help them to even heal. They're just supposed to forget the trauma. And that doesn't happen. They go into adulthood, carry that trauma, and they begin to behave in a funny way. So the police has their own issues, and they're major in this case, because listening to Barrister, I know how long it takes to prosecute a case, because I've worked with and I've visited City Yara on a number of occasions, and that is what they tell you. But it's a long process, and the process.
Is it supposed to take that long, prosecuting cases like this?
Well, that's what Barrister.
I want to touch on something that she just mentioned.
Okay.
Because of ignorance in the system. Okay, a lot of people don't know that Lagos State has made fantastic laws, not just laws, but also even the procedure for prosecuting these people. You see, when it comes to children, the Lagos State Judiciary has made provision for privacy. We have what we call family court. The moment any case touches on children, the right of a child, it is done in the very office of the magistrate, not in the open court.
Oh, right.
Yes. So, and if your legal practitioner can even apply for proceedings out of the audience of people, if you want to protect the child, because I'm taking my cue from what she said. A lot of people don't want this public zero problem or whatever. They don't want the
The
child.
feel is embarrassing or
stuff. So I want the public out there to know that Lagos State, if it is in Lagos State, a provision can be made for you for some kind of private hearing that will prevent that child, that girl child or female child, from the embarrassment of being known.
Lagos, you heard that. Yes, if probably you've had this issue of molestation as a child, your case can be treated privately. That's coming from
Private hearing.
yes, that's coming private hearing. That's coming from a barrister there. Lagos State has set up a place, made arrangement where all of this can be handled privately. There are cases right here, just between in 2025, between January and July, we've had issues where the Women Affairs Ministry has tried to arrange security team for all of these issues between the mother and the child. We also have police protests in Osun State for the rape of an 8-year-old child. Also, we have issues of a viral mother who has denied feeding a baby with alcohol. That says it was just a mineral in bitters sachet. Well, how well do we believe all of this? All of this, let's come to an angle that we want to handle in Lagos State here. Now, there's this issue trending concerning house helps in Lagos, where they say that, well, they are not being treated right. That was I was expecting the commissioner to also be here, but I've not gotten. We are yet to get a message from him. We've been trying to reach out to him, but we're yet to get a message from him. But before he joins us, we're still expecting the Commissioner of Information right here in Lagos. But madam, let's look at these issues of house help in Lagos. We've seen videos. Thank God for social media. We've seen videos where house help in Lagos are being maltreated. There was a time we had news that probably before you can have an house help, you have to register the child or the word with the Lagos State government, then go through some procedures. But we know that all of those are just 1% or probably 5% in Lagos here, or even in Nigeria. How can this be handled with utmost care? In Nigeria, a mother, how can this be handled with utmost care? Some people will just go to the village, bring some 5-year-old child, a 6-year-old child, and then begin to. We saw one time where it took his children to an eatery and then was given his own child food, serving them with fried rice, chicken, and all of this. And then the house help was somewhere just sipping a bottle of minerals. All of these issues, sometimes psychological effect. How can parents handle this? And how can the government also handle this?
Wow, that's a big issue. But I think it boils down to the fact that Nigerians have lost empathy. We don't, people who feel they're privileged don't understand that it is grace speaking in their lives. And that, to whom much is given, much is expected. That is scripture. I honestly am flabbergasted when I see these kinds of videos. Because if you take a person into your home to support you and you want to entrust your child to that person, then it behoves on you to look after that person so that person can look after your child. So if you want the best result for your child, automatically you have to treat the person right. So when you see many cases of this, what you just described, I mean, I know somebody who literally works on my iAfrica team.
Okay.
She was given to a family member at the age of 5 because she lost her father. And her family member was supposed to look after her and send her to school in Abuja while her mother recovered from the trauma of losing her husband. You won't believe that this lady was sent to her senior sister. And her senior sister used her as a house help.
Her own senior sister.
She never went to school for 5 years.
Wow.
She never got to school. But the girl was smart. And the only way she got to learn was she offered herself as house girl for her neighbor. So that the neighbor's lesson teacher could
Can be
teach her.
teacher.
And that's how she came to be who she is today. But when she tells that story, you can see the trauma. Her own sister. And of course, they don't have a good relationship till today.
Is it only? Sorry to interject you. Is it only when you beat a child that? Because some people say that I didn't touch. Some will say I didn't touch him now. I didn't touch her now.
No. Trauma is, it starts from where does the person stay? You can't put somebody on your kitchen floor. So let's flip it. If this was in the UK and you were going to have like a living nanny, there were conditions that you had to meet. She had to have her own room. She had to have 3 meals a day. She had to be paid a decent wage. And at the same time, you needed to integrate her into your family.
Oh, they pay kids.
No. So I've forgotten what they call them in the UK, but they bring them in from Europe. They call them something nannies. But to bring them in, there are a whole lot of requirements you need to meet. And those requirements make that you're bringing that person to become a part of your family, and she will au pair. And they will look after your child.
Yeah.
So they will help your child go to school. They will do all that, right? But they have a rate that you pay them, and that even with that, you're going to the park, you're buying tickets for her too, you're riding with, they become part of your family. So you can't have somebody living in your house. I can't even imagine it, having somebody living in your house who is not a part of your family, and you feel safe to leave your child with that person. As much as possible, it is important that it integrates. So when you see all these stories and they say, this one is a witch, or this one is a that.
That's another angle too, but we'll come to that.
They have to actually ask, how did the person treat the, you can't be kind, you can't be gracious, you can't be caring for somebody and they will attack your child. That is my opinion. There might be exceptions to that rule, but in my experience, all the people that helped me with my children are still members of my family till today. They can walk into my house.
No neighbors or anybody telling you, or one prophet somewhere telling you, witchcraft or something.
I've never seen witchcraft. They can walk into my house today and I will still say, cook my food. I will still say, go up to my bedroom, because I established a strong relationship with them and with their families. I know how, human beings, it's all about relationship. If you are good to a person, if you care about the pain points of a person, and you try to help them address, counsel, advice, whatever, I think that you are a better chance of having somebody who will look after your child. So when I hear these stories, I sometimes say to myself that maybe it's a generational thing. I'm a baby boomer. And in those days with the baby boomers, our parents made our nannies part of our household. And so for me, I was able to do that. And I assume that when my children have families, they will do that if they choose to go that route. But maybe some people who never had nannies growing up with them just never knew how to treat them. And because you have money doesn't mean that you're a kind person, doesn't mean that you have empathy. The contract of a nanny in any home goes beyond just the contract of look after my child. The contract is a tripartite contract. You look after my child, I look after you, and we help each other. You understand? I'm interested in your welfare. What do you want to be when you grow up? I tell everybody that my nanny that looked after me, Ebu, when she left her house, she went to sew. And from her house in the University of Ibadan, she married a lecturer, because my father and mother made sure that even though she came in, couldn't speak English, she left speaking English like us. Ebu was not allowed to speak Yoruba in the house. And when she found her husband, she moved into a 2-bedroom flat in University of Ibadan. Wow. That is how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to lift up people. But if you were not lifted up, then you don't know how to do it. But I think Nigeria, has given people so much opportunity. So I just don't understand this house help one.
All right, Dr. Aderonke, you want to make a comment? Okay,
See,
please.
I like people to know that denial of basic education is domestic violence.
Wow. Denial of basic
Basic
education.
education
is
is domestic
domestic
violence.
violence.
Section 18 of Lagos State Protection Against Domestic Violence Law of Lagos State, 2007.
That means
has-
they will arrest many people in Lagos.
That's what I'm
because-
saying. You see, I've always said we have the laws, we have fantastic laws, but enforcement is a challenge. Just imagine we have an agency that goes from door to door trying to find out, is this your child? Is that your child? Is she in school? Why is she not in school? Why is this one hawking? Where is she
Wow.
coming from?
Wow.
How about arresting them and say, take us to your parents' house? Why are you hawking during school hours?
Why
How
can't we
old?
do that in
How
Lagos?
old? That's what I'm saying. How old are you? Why are you on the street? You're supposed to be in school. Okay? Because denial of basic education is domestic violence.
Wow.
Under domestic violence law of Lagos State. This is it.
So that literally means that apart from laying hands on a child, that's not all. That's also is
Oh,
domestic
there
violence.
are all forms of abuse, plenty forms of abuse.
Because
Not
when
just,
in
not just
Nigeria, when you
beating.
hear of domestic violence, you think it's the one that that's
Is it-
goes
or
and
the
all.
rape?
Yeah,
Or the rape,
or probably rape.
molestation.
Oh,
all
no,
of
no,
those
no,
things.
no, no.
This is new.
Wow.
It's not new. 2007.
So as an educator, I'm just smiling, I'm beaming. Because
I'm going to show you this. I'll show you
because
this.
what I
These are the
Africa
laws.
does
Okay.
is that we preach education. We preach that everybody has the right to education, and we offer solutions that can actually help people read. And we're actually launching something tomorrow where we're saying, even in your house, use this. We're going on YouTube with our product. Use this product and let your people learn to read. Because if people can read, write, communicate effectively, then every other thing will fall into place. A lot of children are in school. I hope you know that they're in school, but they cannot read. They cannot write. They don't know. They just go and wear the uniform. But that is part of our problem in Nigeria. Illiteracy is a problem. And to see that it's actually a law that
Yes.
denying them the right to school
It's domestic violence.
is domestic violence. I'm really just chuffed.
Oh, Dr. Neroke, I'm sure you are trying to make a comment there.
Yeah, she would.
Yeah, it's, you're touching on many of it. And I think part of the issue is that people don't even understand what is part of child abuse in Nigeria. Yes, we have everybody that's, commonly familiar with the fact that, physical abuse, beating, burning, tying, with objects and things like that, that's child abuse. But there's also emotional abuse.
That's right.
A parent or anyone that throws insults or humiliation or threats or things like that, or isolation, is also considered child abuse in Nigeria. Neglect is also considered child abuse in Nigeria. So failing to provide food for a child or shelter, health care, and education, like you said, it is part of child abuse. The sexual abuse is pretty common. I think most people understand that any form of defilement, rape, or incest, or sexual exploitation, or even pornography, child pornography, that is also child abuse. Child labor, which is an interesting one in Nigeria, forcing a child to be a house help or hawk on the street or work in the farm or beg. That is child abuse. You know how many children you see on the streets as you drive begging. That is child abuse. And child trafficking is also considered child abuse. Whether we're selling or trading or transporting children for work as maids and things like that, or sexual rituals and things like that, that is all child abuse. And early marriage is also child abuse. So there's so many areas that fall into, that are classified as child abuse. But when you talk about child labor, it gets a little complex because the law, I think it's the Labor Act law of Nigeria, sort of permits children who are between 12 and 14 to do light work. It cannot be dangerous, it cannot be industrial, but they are permitted to do light work. But one thing that we know for sure across the board is that any child below 12 years old that is involved in any kind of work, domestic work, whatever, is illegal in Nigeria. And so part of the issue is, first of all, everyone needs to know where those boundaries are. The minimum age for full employment in Nigeria is 15, but anyone below 12 should not even be involved in any kind of work. And until we understand all of these laws as a people and have a way to report it, it becomes normal. That's why you can see a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old being sent out to work as a maid and things like that, because many people do not understand the law. Even beyond, the persecution and the role of the police and all of that, our people as Nigerian citizens do not understand the law and their rights.
Oh, wow, all of this. Thank you very much for that. Well, it's time for us to turn the matter down to you, the audience listening to us. Okay, you can call us on the 0705 690 0927. 0705 690 0927 or call 0802 502 7711. 0802 502 7711. You can also send us a message via WhatsApp on the 0705 6900 927. 0705 6900 927. If you're having issues, or probably you are in this challenge of child abuse, please call us. You can remember, you can stay anonymous to this. Yes, if you have a complaint, or probably you are going through this challenge right now, yes, you can call us. If you choose to stay anonymous, that you are allowed right now on the show. 0705 6900 927. 0705 6900 927 or call 0802 502 7711. 0802 502 7711. Don't forget, we are live on YouTube at Super FM Lagos. We're live on YouTube at Super FM Lagos. All right, joining us live also, I told you, we're experts in one woman who is a child rights activist. Also a director of programs at Kingdom Concept Children Development Initiative. I hope I got the name correct. Daphne Uduneje. Daphne Uduneje, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
I understand Lagos traffic, but thank God you are here.
Yeah. Thank God I'm here.
All right, let me quickly come to you. We've had a lot of conversation, and I've learned something today. Barrister has taught us something that really I never knew. I never knew that if not sending a child to school can be another form of abuse, domestic abuse. I know also that Mrs. Mudukwetu has also learned something with this. Now, let me come to you. There's this many children, especially girls, are being forced to abandon their education due to early marriages, or probably the need to support their families, the need to help and all of this. At what stage should parents begin to give a child financial, educational, emotional, and even sexual freedom? At what age?
Oh, thank you so much. Like you rightly said, every child has a right. Like in Nigerian Constitution and then globally, there are rights of the children. Okay, and what I'll say is that for every parent, it is important that these rights are applied in relating with your children. Sure. But let me add this. Okay, in Nigeria, for instance, you ask yourself, how many parents know about this? How many parents knows that their children has this right? What awareness has been created to make people, and most people believe it's my child. Okay, I have the right to do what I should do to him or her. But here, I think people should get to know, well, first of all, what are the rights of the children? Maybe we'll look at that. And then how much of this rights do the parents, have or are aware of? Now, having said that, again, when you begin to look at child abuse from the perspective of when should children be,
given this freedom?
Given this freedom. like keep saying, how much does the parent know? But if you want me to comment on that,
Please go ahead.
I'll say that it's at the point that that child has been taught, untutored, to a level that that child could actually understand what freedom
So
is.
it's not just longer 18 or 17 or 16.
No,
There's no age bracket to it.
No, I know. Yeah, I know 18 should be said to be the right age. But you agree with me that we have different backgrounds. People are brought up from various backgrounds. So we have the middle class. I don't know if that still exists, the upper class and all of that. So when people come from different backgrounds like that, their rate of development differs. Okay. Now, an 18-year-old child, okay, from the upper class certainly knows some things which a girl from the lower class may not know. So what I say is that it has to do with individuals, and then looking at economy again. Sometimes you talk about child abuse, you ask yourself, what makes for child abuse? Poverty. All right. When parents don't have what it takes to take care of children, I think I was listening to the last speaker. She talked about sending children to school. But the truth is that there are many parents who could not afford to send children to school. So would you say they're abusing these children when actually they could not? Now, talking about child trafficking and all of that, it still boils down to the society. How much has society been able to help these parents? Now, looking at the Nigerian economy, for instance, how many parents could put food on the table? So it gets to, I want to take it from that angle because I relate with children who are very, very vulnerable. And of course, I also relate with their mothers, you know. I've seen instances where parents, ask their children to go begging for food, for money, all right? Not that they like it, but like, and a typical case.
Not the Amajuris.
No, not the Amajuris. Nigerians, full-blood Nigerians. I give an example. There was one close to a church where I go for, prayers and all of that. A very little girl, all right, she comes out to beg with her younger brother, and it got to a point somebody beat him to death. What happened? Poverty. They came from, because I visited, that environment, very, very,
often.
Yes, I visited the environment and I discovered that these people live in abject poverty, surrounded by waters. The woman was sick. Her husband gone, and she found that her children are the only hope she has. So when I saw this girl begging, of course, when she told me her brother is dead, I needed to visit there. And you see stark poverty. And you begin to ask yourself, is she abusing these children? Because she is vulnerable, she is sick. Her husband is not there, so she sent them out to fend for her. But unfortunately, the child abuse, I hope you understand. We see that as child abuse, but for her, that's survival. That's the way she could survive. So for me, I think it goes beyond what is said in black and white. It's time we begin to look deeper into people's life and the life of the citizens. What do we have on the table for them? It's not like you and I know what child abuse is, but the woman in the suburb there, the woman who is sick, the woman who is widowed, with 5 children to feed, how does she survive? Okay?
There's a point also talking about poverty. The fact that when a family knows that they are in a way poor, and yet they give birth to 5, 6, 7 children. How we need to address all of this? I mean, how can they address this?
Yeah, it still boils down to awareness, right? We still have so much to do when it comes to that. Because I tell you, I relate with the very, very vulnerable. I tell you, many of those women, I have a case, somebody who's very close to me, he had up to 7 children and they didn't know what to do. Until somebody have to tell him, you can't keep having children like this. He said, but you people know what I should do, and you're looking at me like this. So it still boils down to the point of more information, okay, getting to the grassroots in whichever way we think we could actually communicate to them. Maybe I know some NGOs do that, maybe through Pidgin English, our local dialects, okay, because it's not enough talking about it here. the rural woman there who produces these children that you're talking about,
Yeah.
they see it as blessings.
Wow.
But for
Okay.
but
Okay,
for Nigerian
Barrister, you
situation,
want to make a comment on this?
Honestly, I have quite a lot of things to say concerning what I'm just hearing. You
Okay,
see,
go ahead.
when we talk about child abuse, right? There's a place for empathy, compassion, and maybe sentiment, but we still have to look at what the law has said. When we talk about right to education under the Child Rights Law, okay, it is the duty of the government to make provision for what we call universal basic education. It is the duty of government. For instance, Lagos State, it means that primary school is free. Okay, and the same law, section 14 of Child Rights Law, is saying that every parent is encouraged to send the child to secondary school, but there is an alternative. Are you listening to what I'm saying?
I'm with you, please. Go ahead.
Right to universal basic education is the duty of the government to make that free for every child. And every parent is encouraged to send the child to secondary school. But there's an alternative. The alternative is that in the event that the child, you don't have money to send the child to secondary school, the child must learn a trade. Okay, when you see a child that is not in school, is it because the parents are poor, but the primary school is free? So when you see a child that is roaming about, like, hawking and hawking on the street, you say because I don't have money to send the child to secondary school. How about learning the trade? This abuse of children should be inexcusable, whether there's poverty or not. What I'm saying is that, for instance, what she said, people need to be educated. That is where I want to touch on the implementation committee, the Child Rights Law of Lagos State. Section 247 makes provision for state implementation committee, which should be doing what she is saying right now. People are very much ignorant. Some don't even know that primary school is free in Lagos.
Sure.
Okay, some don't know. There's no excuse for a woman that has 7 children
That's
who keeps
government
having
primary
children.
school. You need to clear it. Government primary school.
That's what I'm saying now. What do you want to do with private primary school if you don't have money? You think that they don't teach well in government primary school?
No,
I have gone to those
clarified-
schools. They are doing fantastic.
I've
They are the
clarified
ones that
this.
clear A's in WAEC. How many people make A's in WAEC and jump from private schools? So we have free primary school, and someone has 7 children. All of them are hawking. You didn't send them to school. You say it's because of poverty or because of government.
Is that not an excuse?
Eh?
Is that not?
It's not an excuse when you have free primary school and your child is not in school.
They will tell
on
you
the street.
They will tell you that they are still paying for something. They will tell you that they'll pay for
Yeah.
books. They'll pay for. Dr. Deronke, you want to make a comment?
Yeah, so I think we need to be clear on what this free education looks like. And I think we need to be fair to those who, are less privileged. In all honesty, yes, there is free education, but like somebody was trying to allude to, there are fees that are required for parents to access this free education. As we know, across the board in Nigeria, you cannot send a child to school without a school uniform. In other countries, it's not required to have school uniform in public schools. But in Nigeria, it is. And so if you have 7 children and you're paying probably close to 10,000 for each child to be able to get a school uniform, to be able to attend school, that is not an insignificant burden on a parent. Beyond school uniforms, you also have books. Well-to-do parents know the burden of buying textbooks for their children to go to school. It is no different for those that are less privileged. And to be able to afford to buy textbooks for 7 children, that is a significant expense for somebody who is just barely trying to feed themselves or provide shelter for themselves.
So when you have things like this, what should be done?
Yeah, so I think we need to, and people argue with me on this matter, but I think we need to rethink things like textbooks and school uniforms in public schools. if our goal is really to ensure that all our children are in schools, we need to remove every barrier that stops them from going to school. In Lagos State, they require tax clearance and, registration fees and so many other documents for a child to be enrolled in school. Not every parent is going to have access to tax clearance and things like that. And when it becomes too burdensome, parents give up. So I think we really need to rethink all of these items that burden parents from sending their children to school. It's not just about saying that education is free, it's about removing the other barriers, the other financial barriers, the other documentation barriers that prevent children from getting into school. Get them into school, and then you can figure out how to normalize them.
All right.
But if you're telling them that they need to pay so much to get in and they need to bring tax clearance for the woman that doesn't even speak English in some little town somewhere, where is she going to start? Does she even understand what taxes are?
All right, Mrs. Modigwe, you want to make a comment?
Yes, I want to piggyback off what everybody has said and just sort of round things up with, when Madam spoke about last time that they have is producing children. And so you take that away from them, they have nothing. So that's why poor people have a lot of children, okay? The women are subject to their men, they don't have a choice, they don't understand birth control and all these things. So that's why we see that the poor people have, a statistic that is interesting. In the IDP camp in Borno State, that was closed down recently, between 2014, I think, when they opened up, and 2020 when they closed, over 20,000 babies were born.
Wow.
Babies. Because that's what they do. That's what they do. There's nothing else to do. So let's put that aside. And barristers talked about having everybody have the rights. Yes, but public schools, the distribution of public schools in Lagos State is not very good. I've been to Ajegunle. There are 5 government schools within the Ajegunle district. I think 3 are secondary school, 2 are. But it's in one ward. They're all clustered together. All the other wards have secondary school. To commute is a problem. And so that's why the non-state private schools started coming up. Non-state schools are schools where you charge 5,000 naira. We call them jelly-simi in Yoruba. But they're there serving a purpose. Because rather than have your child commute to a
Is it a Unity school?
It's not a Unity school. Unity school is different. Oh. It's a government school. But non-state schools meet the community's needs.
All right.
Now, these non-state schools have 5,000 naira, 10,000 naira school fees. And that's because they take the WAEC graduates and they use them as teachers. And that's what you have. In a lot of schools, WAEC students are teaching the children. They don't know how to teach how to read. They themselves cannot read properly. So that is another level of problem. In Lagos State, we don't have enough public schools. In Lekki here, there's one private school. When you take the whole mile of express, there's one at VI, right? And then there's one just after the bridge before you approach VGC. And you can imagine communities on the left and the right have to go. So that's why you had a lot of children being knocked down because they're trying to get to school and the cars are moving fast. So let's take that. Now, Aderunke has made a very good point where she says that there are fees in public schools. They are. They pay for things.
Yeah, I know.
Even not just in Lagos, across Nigeria. They have to buy their exercise books, right? They have to pay for textbooks. They have to buy school fees. School shoes. To kit a child to go to school is expensive. So when we talk about free education, let's understand that it might appear to be free, but it's not entirely free for a family who lives on a woman's resources where she's roasting fish. How much is the fish? How much is the profit? In Ajegunle, the children go and hawk puff puff so that they can get enough money to go and pay the 1,000 naira of the 5,000 naira they have to pay for a term. They pay it, they hawk for a week, they go to school. 2 weeks later, they're out hawking again. they go back to school.
Is this to show that the Lagos State government is not doing enough to address this menace?
I wouldn't
That's right.
say they're not doing enough. I would say that our population in Lagos State is overwhelming. And one of the things that my foundation has found out is that, you know, the problem of education is not a government problem alone. It's everybody's problem.
Just education?
No, education because that's the next generation. And we have in Nigeria today, we have about 120 million people who are semi-illiterate or literate or illiterate, semi-illiterate or illiterate, below the age of 25. That's what we have in Nigeria. So you who went to school, and all of us here who went to school, we have a responsibility to understand that in any way we can support the children, because there are many. There are too many. And I must say here, not every child must go into a physical school. One of the things we do in iAfrica is we encourage clusters. The going to earn resources to support their family is part of the Nigeria of today. We can't take it away.
We're really out of time already.
Okay,
We'll just
sorry.
we just have to wrap it up right now. But okay, quickly, I will say, Lekon from Lagos, get your message here. Good morning, crew. Congratulations. Your president and his education ministers have commercialized education from day one by increasing school fees, also introducing student loan, which is a low-grade mind idea. You have the highest out-of-school children in the world, more than 80 million children out of school today. JAMB has reduced mark from 250 to 150. That was what we talked about that yesterday, the day before yesterday. I was saying for JAMB, 100 for Poly JAMB. Also, because you prioritize making money, then education, that is why he has destroyed it, to breed Agberos and ignorant people for election gain. I want to ask, where is the certificate of, well, that's a big question there. That is why nothing is working. They have taken the children's bread and given it to the dogs, making the people's life so hard. This is what he has done for all sectors. That is why we are in this nightmare. It's a shame the worst of us is ruling the best of us. Truly, there is a country. Lekon from Lagos. Thank you very much, Lekon, a regular texter right here on Spotlight. It's been a wonderful time. I'm talking to everyone right here. Thank you very much for talking to us. Veteran educator, founder, iAfrica Cloud Ed Foundation, Mrs. Modupe Adeyinka. It's been a wonderful time joining us right here on Spotlight. Also, Barrister, they said ladies first, so let me treat. Also, Daphne Udune James, Daphne, a child rights activist.